The storm outside was fierce, but nothing compared to the storm inside their home. Ethan's voice sliced through the silence like lightning. "I want a divorce." The words hung heavy, echoing off marble walls that had once known laughter. Sophia stood frozen near the grand piano, her heart pounding but her eyes dry. She did not beg or cry. She simply looked at him, the man who had once sworn to love her forever. He looked different now. The tenderness in his gaze had vanished, replaced by exhaustion and frustration. The company he had built was collapsing, investors were leaving, and his pride was bleeding faster than his bank account. He needed someone to blame, and she was the closest thing. Sophia's fingers brushed against the edge of the table, steadying herself as she whispered, "If that's what you want." Her calmness shook him more than any tear could. For a moment his confidence cracked, but his anger forced it back into place. "Just go," he said, turning away. That night, while the mansion slept, she packed one small suitcase, baby clothes, a family photo, and the stuffed bunny their son loved. The driver didn't ask where she was going. As the car moved through the rain, she looked back once. The mansion's glowing windows faded into darkness, just like their promises. Sophia held her son close and whispered, "We'll start again." The road ahead was uncertain, but in that moment, she realized something powerful. She wasn't running away from her past. She was walking toward her future. The next morning, sunlight crept through the cracks of a cheap curtain in a one-room apartment. Sophia woke up to the sound of her son's soft breathing beside her. The air smelled of bread from the bakery below, and though the walls were cracked, it felt more like home than the mansion ever did. She had traded chandeliers for flickering bulbs, but what she gained was peace, fragile, precious peace. Each morning, she carried Noah to the park, wrapped in a blanket that used to hang over their old couch. People passed her by without knowing she once had everything money could buy. Yet she did not crave that world anymore. By noon, she worked as a cleaner in a small hotel near the city's edge. The work was hard and the pay small, but every time she saw Noah's tiny smile, the exhaustion disappeared. At night, when the city buzzed outside and loneliness pressed against her chest, she found herself sketching again, small characters, stars, and dreams she thought she had lost. It became her quiet rebellion against the pain life gave her. One evening, her drawings caught the attention of a guest staying at the hotel, a woman who owned a small publishing studio. She watched Sophia sketch between cleaning tasks and asked to see more. "You have a story in your hands," the woman said softly. Sophia laughed it off, but inside her heart trembled. For the first time in years, someone saw her not as a broken wife, but as a creator. That night she couldn't sleep. She kept staring at her old sketchbook, wondering if this was the beginning of something she never dared to believe in again. Hope. The next few weeks felt like a dream she didn't want to wake from. Sophia met with a woman from the publishing studio. Her name was Clara, and she spoke with the kind of warmth Sophia had forgotten existed. Clara flipped through the worn sketchbook, page after page filled with whimsy and quiet emotion. "These aren't just drawings," she said. "They're stories waiting to be told." For the first time in years, Sophia's heart stirred with something she could not name. Clara offered her a small chance to illustrate a children's book. It wasn't much money, but it was everything Sophia needed, a doorway back into the life she once believed was over. Sophia worked through sleepless nights, balancing hotel shifts with sketches at her kitchen table. Her pencils wore down faster than her hope. She drew stars that danced, foxes that dreamed, and little children who found magic in ordinary days. Noah would sit beside her, coloring his own world with crayons and laughter. When the book was finally printed, Clara called her into the office, eyes gleaming. "It's selling, Sophia. People love it." Sophia stood in silence, tears she'd long buried rising to the surface. The girl who once left everything behind was now building something entirely her own. Months passed, and Sophia's name began to spread quietly through the city's creative circles. Her drawings were simple, but they carried emotion, the kind that made people pause and feel something real. The publishing company offered her another project, then another. Soon her sketches appeared in shop windows, on posters, and in the hands of children who adored her characters. What had once been her escape had now become her purpose. Yet behind every smile she wore, there was still a shadow of the past she had fought so hard to leave behind. One evening, Clara called her with unexpected news. A large international publisher had noticed her work online and wanted to fly her out for a meeting to London. Sophia could hardly believe it. She looked at Noah, now a bright little boy with curious eyes, and realized this opportunity could change their lives forever. The night before the flight, she sat beside his bed, brushing his hair as he slept. The memory of that rainy night, when she had left with nothing but hope, came rushing back. Now she was flying not in search of escape, but triumph. The world that once threw her away was about to see what she had become. The flight attendant smiled as Sophia and Noah settled into their seats. It was their first time flying business class, and as the plane began to move, she couldn't help but think of how far they had come. Just 3 years ago, she had stood in the rain with nothing but a suitcase and a child in her arms. Now, she was traveling across continents as a successful illustrator, her name printed on book covers, loved by thousands. She looked out the window, watching the clouds drift beneath them, when a familiar voice caught her off guard. It was calm, deeper than she remembered, but unmistakable. Ethan. He was a few rows ahead, wearing a suit that probably cost more than her rent from those early years. When he turned and their eyes met, time stopped. His expression shifted from surprise to disbelief. The woman he once dismissed now looked confident, poised, radiant. Noah tugged at her sleeve, whispering, "Mama, that man is staring." She smiled softly. "It's okay, love." Ethan stood to greet her, words catching in his throat. In that moment, he wasn't the millionaire who shouted her away. He was a man staring at everything he had lost. And for Sophia, it wasn't revenge. It was closure. For a moment, the world around them disappeared. The murmurs of passengers, the hum of engines, even the clink of glasses faded into silence. Ethan's gaze lingered, searching for the woman he once knew. But Sophia was no longer that fragile soul who waited for his approval. She was composed, elegant, and untouchably calm. "Sophia," he finally said, voice trembling, "I didn't know you'd be here." She smiled faintly, her tone gentle yet distant. "Neither did I. Life takes us to strange places." His eyes fell on Noah, who was busy drawing on the airline notepad, humming softly. Something flickered in Ethan's expression, a mixture of guilt, longing, and awe. As the plane crossed the ocean, he asked if they could talk. For the first time in years, she agreed. not out of anger, but peace. She told him about the nights she almost gave up, the moments she fought to keep hope alive, and the dream that became her salvation. Ethan listened quietly, realizing that her strength had built something his wealth never could: dignity. When the plane landed, he whispered, "You made it farther than I ever did." Sophia smiled, standing with her son's hand in hers. "I didn't need to chase the sky," she said softly. "I just learned how to fly."